A week ago Friday, I had the opportunity to be in Houston, and it was a very spontaneous business trip. Some individuals within a worldwide conglomerate wanted to talk to me about setting up what they called the third leg of a stool. This is an organization that offers services in the oil and gas industry around the world, primarily in workflow automation and in IT areas. And they wanted to add a third leg that they called change management. So I came in to chat with them about the possibility of taking on that role. And I asked the hiring manager, as a part of our conversation, to describe to me what he thought change management was all about. And he said, well, you know, it's going from, he drew this on a sheet of paper, it's going from point A to point B, and he drew a line that went up, which assumes what? A change in performance. And then he said, well, you have to deal with resistance along the way because that's the biggest issue, and stakeholders and things. And I said, so describe for me, just in a sentence or two, what you think are the real core elements of change management. And he said, well, communications, you know, you have to have like a branding theme, and you have to have communication plans, and you need to have posters, and you need to have all of these other sorts of paraphernalia to communicate what you're doing on your project to help people transition. And then second, there needs to be a whole bunch of training for the end users, and maybe some training along the way to get them to where they need to go. And then third, there needs to be this whole thing around stakeholders and organizational readiness for change, and so on and so forth. And in that moment, I stopped. And I said to him, I'm not sure we're on the same wavelength. I said, and here's my background and what I bring to this situation. I said, I'm Lori Silverman, and I have been doing work in the field of organizational change for more than 30 years. And one of the things that really dismays me about the field of project management is that the things that I know to be important about organizational change are not the things that project managers are focused on. And I said, I think that there is a whole vast set of tools out there that we need to take a look at. And so I proceeded to draw him a picture I'm going to show to you, but at a presentation this morning, I've actually distilled it down to a chart that I'll show you after I show you the picture. So what I did was I said, here's what I think to be true. I said, first of all, you're all using the wrong term. It's not change management, it's organizational change management, or enterprise-wide change. And so I put a circle in the center of the page that had OCM in it. And then I said, you know, OCM has a couple of different layers. I said, first of all, we think in terms of three pieces. We think about the content of the project, we think about the process that you're going through, and we think about relationships. I said, third, then on top of that, we think about who is it that we do it with, and we think about individuals, and we think about teams, and we think about business units, and we think about the organization, and we think about society at large, too. I said, but beyond that, there is another level out here. Now you tell me, how many of you are familiar with the field and the tools associated with organization development? Wow. That is what you need to start learning about. And nobody is talking about it here. I'm going to start that conversation. And that's what I did with this gentleman. And I said, you're telling me that there might need to be training, and you're telling me that there might need to be communications, and you're telling me that there might need to be a stakeholder assessment, and you're telling me we might need to look at organizational readiness. I said, but on my tool belt, 30-some years of experience doing organizational change management, I think about things like teams and how do we get people to team, and I think about collaboration, and I think about things like large group interventions where I can bring together hundreds and hundreds of people, I kid you not, and do change literally within 24 hours. And I can bring them in from all over the world, and I can make it happen. And I'll show you the formula that makes that work as we go through today's presentation. And I can do things around personality, type, and temperament. And I understand influence and persuasion. And I understand all these other tools and methods. And folks, I'm here to tell you that if you want to focus on just this piece, and this piece, you're missing the boat. This picture is much larger. And for those of you who are thinking, oh, change management is simple, I'm here to tell you it's not. It is extremely complex because it has a different mindset than project management, change management. And so in a session I was in this morning, I started to create the following chart because my goal when this is all finished is I've got to figure out where I can write an article about this because I think this is so critical to start making these distinctions and expanding and broadening your thinking. Change management a la project management, independent of the document management piece of this. Okay, so just leave that to the side. People keep telling me it's structured. That's not organizational change management. We're organic. We don't ever think about all the steps of organizational change up front. We can't because it's an iterative process. You think linear. We think multiple platforms, multiple ideas, continually cycling back and forth to inform each other. So our lessons learned are every single day. We don't talk necessarily about resistance. We will because that's the language you use. We talk about resilience. It's not about how do I prevent resistance, it's how do I build resilience in people. And for those of you who are coming to the workshop I'm teaching this week on persuasion and influence, we're going to talk about personality temperament and how that relates to building resilience and where resistance may come from internally within people's personality temperament. Change management a la project management's activity-based. I'm not activity-based, I'm relationship and process-based. Now, I'll do activities for you. I'll fill out your charts and your forms. I can do that. That's not sufficient. That's thinking in small, bite-sized pieces. I think systems, and I think interdependencies. For me, it's continuous. For you, it's discrete. You have these steps. I can't see steps. I see it all kind of molded together into something that's bigger, that has issues that you can't even maybe see or identify because I can't map them out with Visio, or I can't put them into a PowerPoint slide, or I might, heaven forbid, have to use a story instead of data and statistics to be able to influence someone rather than persuade them, because those are two different ways of getting people to make change happen. And then finally, you say, well, there are all these wonderful methodologies out there. I agree. There are lots of wonderful methodologies out there, and none of them in and of themselves are sufficient. And here's what I think the bigger problem is. I use synthesis for this very reason. If there's nothing that you gain out of this presentation except for the following, it will serve you well in my eyes.